Welcome. Thank you for being here today and happy Friday. This is Xinyu. I am an international student in finance master program, also a student inclusion leader at Whitman School. So I'm very glad to co-host this panel with Executive Director of Institutional Culture at Whitman School, Diane Crawford, and another student inclusion leader, Ray Wang. So today we're going to have a great conversations about international students' career journey, and this is the safe place for you to share your concerns and your problems. But before that, I would like to acknowledge with respect that the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous people on whose ancestral land Syracuse University now stands. So at this time, I'm honored to introduce our panel moderator, Professor Q Lee. Dr. Q Lee is Associate Dean for Global Initiatives and Professor of Marketing at Martin J. Whitman School of Management, Syracuse University. He's a leading scholar on marketing, channel management, and marketing strategy, and teaches brand management and global innovation management at Whitman. Born and raised in Seoul, South Korea, he graduated from Seoul National University before coming to the United States to study at Duke University for his MBA and PhD. Prior to joining the Syracuse marketing faculty in 2000, he taught at Seattle University and at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. So let's give him a warm welcome, and he will introduce our four panelists today.
Thank you, Xinyu. Before I introduce today's panelists, I'd like to also introduce a couple of my colleagues. The first one is Christine Wavy. She is an assistant director in the Whitman Career Center, and she is responsible for the career education and professional development of our undergraduate finance and real estate students, while also acting as a liaison with industry alumni and corporate partners. Additionally, she is the career advisor for Adams House in the Whitman's Good Mud Impress program. And Christine joined the Whitman team in March 2019 and most recently held the role of graduate career advisor to help full-time MBA and master's students for their career success. And prior to joining the Whitman Career Center, Kristen worked in the emergency response industry and also in hotel operations for Forbes 4 and 5-star resorts. Kristen holds a bachelor's degree in hospitality and food service management from Syracuse University and also an MBA from SUNY Oswego. So Kristen, thank you very much for joining us. And after we hear from three panelists, Christine will also share some information and advice from the Career Center's point of view. So thank you very much. Also, after you hear from the three panelists and Christine, you'll have a chance to hear from Professor Gary Lapointe, a professor of supply chain management, and he is also the leader of International Summer Internship Program in Singapore, and he'll have some useful information about the internship and career opportunities in global business world. Okay, with that, I'm so excited to introduce three panelists that we are so lucky to have today. Lara Marto is originally from Jordan. She is Whitman MBA alum, and she is currently working in Europe as global brand manager. And Syed is actually currently a graduate student actually in the master's program. And he's expected to graduate next month, but also he's working full-time as an engineering manager for a company in North Carolina. And finally, we have Jenny Eng, originally from Malaysia, and she's in New York City right now, and she's a global talent and organizational development manager. Okay, well, we'll have a chance to hear from these three panelists. And after that, you will have a chance for Q&A. Anytime you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to type up your questions. And then after you hear from the panelists and Christine and Gary, we'll have a chance to address your questions. Okay, so without further ado, then let's start with the first panelist, Lara Marta. Lara comes from Jordan, where she was born and raised. She received her bachelor's degree in finance from University of Jordan in Amman, and she started her career in CSR and also worked in other roles in a telecommunications company until she found her passion in marketing. I like that. So she decided to pursue her MBA at Syracuse University upon receiving the Fulbright scholarship. And she really enjoyed her years in Whitman School of Management, where she made close friends and engaged in many extracurricular activities. And she says that being in a small class size offered a better overall experience, both academically and socially. So in 2013, she graduated with her MBA degree with dual concentration in marketing and entrepreneurship, and later left the US to pursue her career in Dubai, UAE. Lara worked in multiple industries such as telecommunications and automotive, and currently works as a global brand manager in the largest food company in the world, Nestle. She strategically manages multiple food brands and enjoys product innovation. And in her spare time, she volunteers to meet students and talk to them about marketing and their career aspirations. So Lara, thank you so much for coming, and it's always my pleasure to reconnect with you. So why don't you kind of share the summary of your career path and maybe some lessons that you have learned about pursuing a business career in today's globalized business world through your professional experiences?
Thank you so much, Professor Cooley. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's not the first time that we do these voluntary work for students. So I'm very happy to be here speaking to my Syracuse University students. So like Professor said, I came from Jordan in the Middle East to Syracuse in 2011. And I actually had 5 years of work experience. So I don't know if you've come straight from undergrad or you've also come with some work experience. And so in reality, my career started before even I joined Whitman. When I finished my undergrad from Jordan, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. So I started working in CSR, so corporate social responsibility, and then was a finance intern in an automotive industry, moved to PR within the same company, then moved to HR with another company in another industry. And then I went into marketing. And then I liked marketing so much that I wanted to have an MBA in marketing. So it's really important to find a job, right? But what's more important is to find passion for that job. So I graduated in 2013, like Professor mentioned. However, before graduating, I interviewed with Nestle in Dubai for a brand manager role. So I found this role on their website where they wanted a brand manager to manage different food products in the Middle East region. So I've been with Nestle ever since, spent 5 years in Dubai, and then was chosen to join the Nestle's headquarters in Switzerland. And this is where I am today. So navigating jobs when I was in the US, that was very difficult. Even with experience that I had, since I'm an international student, but especially it was more difficult because I came from an unfamiliar country. So, okay, this girl with experience, but she's coming from Jordan. So who are these people? Where is that country? And so on. So it wasn't easy. So today I want to share with you how I navigated jobs and opportunities. So these have worked for me, and I'm just sharing it with you guys. And I don't say that this is the only way to employment or career growth. It's just worked out for me. So I want to share with you. So what I found useful is not applying right, left, and center to any job post that you find, but to have a really focused approach. Target certain companies, target certain industries. So it's just like marketing. You need to understand where you're going and what you want to target. So first, I researched online. So what I did was I said, okay, what are the growing industry nowadays? And so I asked professors, I asked reference points saying, okay, what has been growing as an industry in the past and forecasted to grow? And then I plotted these out, and then I matched them to what my passion is or to what I enjoy doing. So I enjoy doing market research, I enjoy innovation, coming up with ideas, maybe a bit of advertising. So I knew where I wanted to go. So I realized at that time that I wanted CPGs, so consumer packaged goods, and dot-com companies. So these were the two industries that were booming at the time and that were crossing with my interests. So I knew, of course, that I liked marketing. So I focused my research and for the job search in these industries. And then I narrowed down on a number of global companies to approach. So I started actually this before graduation, and this is maybe one of the advice that I give to you today. So I started when I did my summer internship. So in between the 2 years, in the MBA, the 2 years, I went back home to Jordan, but I interned in PepsiCo. So it's a global company, however, from a center point or somewhere close to home. So that gave me the chance to talk to recruiters, to companies about something tangible that I did. So an internship is very important. Second is resume writing. So of course, I know that the Career Center and a lot of professors tell you exactly how to write a resume, and that's great. But from there, you need to send a resume that makes sense to the employer. So basically what I did was that I realized that sending the same resume to all jobs doesn't really work. So I had to tweak my resume per job. So when I was checking the jobs on LinkedIn or on the job website, there were some keywords that the role description had. So when I was checking those keywords, I made sure that they're inside my resume. And the reason why I'm saying that is because usually these resumes are picked up by a system. So it's automatic. It's not really someone going through hundreds of resumes, right? So if I'm applying to a job or a role that says brand manager, and I see words such as product development, strategic thinking, so I added those keywords into my resume. So also in my resume, I wrote about achievements, no matter how big or small they are. And I would say even if some of you don't have work experience or don't have big achievements, write down your achievements no matter how small. So think of a time that you led the team through a project. Think about a time that you volunteered. So write about that, because that keeps the resume interesting and different, because these companies are reviewing hundreds and hundreds of resumes. The third one is very particular, and I think each one of us can relate to, is I branded myself. So this helped me a lot in career fairs, interviews. When I told an interesting story about myself, recruiters remembered me. So I reflected about, okay, my strengths, my weaknesses, what I like to do, some stories from the past. So, it's very important to be transparent and honest, yet interesting, right? So even if you don't have a lot of work experience, just pick up some interesting parts of your character that show that your true self. And I would say something that helped me a lot as well when I was going to job fairs or interviews is to practice. So I practiced my interview. It's very important to hear yourself saying things out loud. So sometimes you write it down or you know what you want to say, but practice takes you a long way. And something that people don't usually do, and I found really useful, is just asking for help. Ask for introductions. Connect to your friends on LinkedIn. See who they're connected to. Ask friends, ask professors to introduce you to recruiters. This is how you build a connection, right? So it's very important that you ask. If you don't ask, you won't receive. Along the way, I learned the three Ps, what I call, and this is something that is really important to me. And I wish someone told me those three Ps before I did the job hunt and even during my career today. So I'd like to share these with you. So the three Ps, I would say, the first P is to be persistent. So you have to always keep following up on the role, follow up with the connection. Don't bother them for sure, but just keep following up. Even in career today, one of the aspects that makes anyone successful is the follow-up on the details of the project. Because if you don't follow up on your work or on somebody else's work to ensure that the aim is achieved, then things don't really happen. So be persistent, look into jobs, follow up with the contacts that you have. The second P is to be present. And this is sometimes we forget about that. So in any meeting, in any quick catch up with a professor, with a recruiter, be present, be fully present, listen, be interested, ask questions, be curious. So don't just go there with maybe the monologue that you prepared, the practice that you did, but also understand someone else, listen, and focus on what's being said. And this really helps also in the day-to-day career, in meetings. Sometimes we go into meetings and we say, okay, this is what I want to say, this is the achievement, but we tend to not be really present in that meeting. The third P, I would say, is to be prepared. Always and always and always, I tried as much as I could to prepare before an interview, for a meeting. It's also even before a quick chat to know about the company background. So I used to go on I don't know, CNN.com or the company website and check something that's related to that company, some piece of news, something that's would strike up a conversation that, oh, okay, so you're going into recyclable materials, so when is that commitment happening and what is challenging about it, so bring some substance. So be prepared with your meetings, because preparation gets you a long way. A few advice, just a few advice for you guys, and then maybe we can talk more in the Q&A. So always know what you want, and don't just apply for everything. Don't just say, okay, I need a job. I'm graduating in May and I need a job and I'm just going to apply everywhere. That doesn't work. Don't also take any job just to have a job. Say no. Know exactly your target company, your target industry, your target field. But do take internships in the companies that you aspire to work at. So even if you cannot find a job, even if you don't get offered a job at the end of that internship, you earn the experience, and you can leverage that in the discussions for the future. I remember that for my internship with PepsiCo in Jordan, I didn't really enjoy that internship. I didn't like it. It wasn't up to my expectations. It was more sales than marketing. So it wasn't really what I wanted to do. However, it opened up a lot of doors in the CPG industry. And this is one of the reasons why Nestle chose me from the job profile online, because they saw that PepsiCo experience. No matter if it was just 2 months or 3 months, they did an interview for me. They had an interview for me because they saw that name. So it's very important to get as much as you can through internships, through contracts, short-term contracts. Just try to be focused where you want to go. Stay in touch with classmates. So after, hopefully, you find the job that you want and get involved with the job and spend years and years working for a certain company. Make sure that you stay in touch with your classmates at Syracuse. So I've graduated almost 8 years ago, and a few months back for Christmas we had a reunion on Zoom. So we had like a reunion for classmates, and you cannot imagine how many of us wanted to find new jobs, and how many of us also were there willing to hand out this resume for HR in the company. So it really makes a difference to stay in touch with your classmates. Also stay in touch build new connections in the area that you're working with. So if you have a steady job, make sure that you're still connected to the other teams, to the other branches of the company, to the sales team, and so on. So make sure that you always have these connections, because people are mostly let's say, the most influential when they want to recommend you for a job. So of course, be active on LinkedIn, clean up your profile, all of that. I'm sure you know all of this. And always be curious, get involved, and do the 3 Ps. Be present, be persistent, and be prepared. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lara. That was so good. So many good messages. I wish I had people like you when I was in college. Maybe
me too,
still
me too. I wish I had more people like me when I was in college. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, my daughter is also a Whitman graduate, a young professional. I have students, so I think I can still take some of your lessons to my students and younger people. That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Now let's move to the second panelist of today, Saad Syed. Saad is a current graduate student at Syracuse University, pursuing his master's in engineering management, and he expects to receive his degree next month, May 2021. He graduated magna cum laude as a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from University of Pune, India. And presently, he is an engineering manager at Cyclone Renewables LLC, managing a multi-million-dollar project portfolio pertaining to sustainability solutions, renewable energy generation, and power microgrid plants across North America and the US Virgin Islands. Saad is also the co-founder of L1b Perfumes, a perfume manufacturing company and a brand, which he established while he was a sophomore in college. And he is presently the chief strategist for the Muslim Student Association and also a member of the Graduate Pandemic Committee on campus. He has been the co-chair for the Student Life Committee at SU as well. He is also a teaching assistant for multiple supply chain management courses at the Whitman School. He is a soccer player at heart, and he's impressive, having played at the national level and has won the State Soccer Championship Cup as a captain in 2019. I don't know how you can handle all of those activities, but I know that you're an impressive person, and I think the audience will be so lucky to hear about your experience and also the lessons that you have learned in your experience. So, Saad, please go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Lee. I mean, thank you for the kind introduction. Well, I must say it's been a really hard work, I would say, for the last 5 years or 6 years. I mean, it takes efforts, it takes time, but the most important, I mean, I completely agree with Lara. I mean, Lara, Jenny, they're the more professional, seasoned people, and I really look up to them with their experiences, and I really agree to each and everything that Lara just mentioned. However, before going over there, I would, just give a little background to me and how these things, when put into place, it serves as a brand for yourself. So basically, I was born in India, and then I moved to Dubai. So I did my schooling in Dubai, and then at a point of time, there was a decision to be made whether I do my undergrad in Dubai or in India. So we just moved all together to India, and then I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I think those 4 years just made a backbone for me. It's my strength, because many of the things that happened in my life is during my bachelor's. And fortunately, I come from a family where everyone is at least a master's or a PhD. And that gives you, that puts you in a position where you have the support, the guidance that you really need at your fingertips. You just need to call out for help. And when I say help doesn't mean that you show you're desperate or you show that you are at a lower end or at the receiving end. And that is what I think one is very crucial, especially for international students, because they think asking for help, advice, guidance is something that might make them inferior. And people have come to me like, how do I ask this? How do I ask him to help me out? And I would like to go there further on, but this is what happened in my undergrads. The first year I wanted to go do a mechanical engineering, a bachelor's from one of the top renowned universities in India. As a matter of fact, I was diagnosed with dengue. It is by mosquitoes, and you feel really sick. So I did not do good on my entrance exam, and I ended up in a second tier university, I would say. I did that, and then I said, okay, I did not go to the best of the best universities. Let me do something. Let me use my time, because I would have time over here. The first year, I played soccer for a club, which basically got me an interview with the academia with Juventus FC. It's one of the world's renowned, and many of you people might know Cristiano Ronaldo, who plays for that club. So it all started over there, and that I started from playing at a very low level, sitting out on the bench, and not getting to play a single game. And then eventually, one game, it just turns you over. They see the potential in you, and it just clicks. So what I mean to say from this is patience. Patience is very necessary. And moving forward, you just when you're consistent, when you show patience, you get the opportunity. And when you get the opportunity, you need to show consistency. And when you are consistent, people recognize you, people acknowledge you. I mean, every person in the right mind would do so. And that is what I feel is very important when you come down to the corporate level. So I did that in the first year. I was very good at it. And then I was excelling in academics. I was in the top 5 or the top 10 of the class because I knew how to manage my time. I knew my strengths and weaknesses. One thing, because my father's like marketing, he's into the marketing domain. He's almost got like a 500-page thesis, but he never wants to publish it. So I don't know why. He doesn't like the name doctor, maybe. So he tells me, like, Saad, everything that you do in life, you need to categorize it. And that being said, it's really simple. Initially, it's tough, but it's basically you categorize as, is it urgent? Is it important? And then you make 4 blocks out of it. So you make a matrix. And then in that matrix, what you do is you say, is it urgent? Is it important? It is not urgent, not important. And the other 2 combination would be, it is urgent, but it is not important. And furthermore. So when you think like academics and sports, okay, which block do I put it in? So it's like sports is not urgent, but it's important for me as a person, as an individual. And okay, let's put it in that box. Academics is very important, and it is urgent. It is a matter of time because if I don't do good in my exams, it might not be good for my future. So that's how you plan, and then it just becomes like a mental thing. When things come up to you, okay, do I do this or that? And then you proceed. So everything was going good. In my sophomore year, my father was like, "So do you want to do a business?" I'm like, "Yeah, I would love to." And he's like, "Okay, let's give it a try. I'll give you the funds that you need. Just set up this business." And he was a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar perfume manufacturing company at that time in Dubai. Same with Lara. I was speaking to her, I think, a couple of days back, very close to where Lara used to work. And he had the expertise. It's just that I'm the youngest in the family. I have 2 older siblings. So they were all occupied. And like, okay, let's do it. So when you're in a peak, you forget some things. You forget that you need to start small, take small steps, and then you progress. That's how life is. It's as simple as that. And I was going too fast. So when I started the business, 3 months I was under. It completely failed. And then I went to my dad and I told like, it isn't working. I don't want to do it. And that's what he said that I still remember it vividly. I knew you would fail because the speed or the velocity which you were going through, it's not usual. You need to think, you need to take a step back. And that's what I come to when I talk about international students looking to job opportunities. You need to take a step back. You have the right credentials, you have the profile, you have the experiences. If not, I do not have experience, but I have these experiences which people do not consider as professional experience. I was the head of the steering team for the SAE Baja competition. The competition, you just get an engine in a car, and then you fabricate an entire sports car. So it's basically a Formula SAE event. They're like F1 Formula. So then I went into that. Then you get a team that you could manage, and then how it happens, what happens, the experiences that are there in the team, you all culminate it. So when you are in a bachelor's or whatever education field that you do, you need to keep that mindset that all of these experiences will help you when you move forward in your life. It might be just as simple as submitting your assignments or your coursework right on time. It teaches you time management. When you have a team which is working on a project, it teaches you teamwork. It teaches you to take initiative. And I think that is what people lack. And I was fortunate to learn that very on. like Professor Lapointe, who's right here, he's my mentor. And I had many other, I mean, even before coming to Syracuse University to do my master's, I was in touch with Professor Lapointe, and he told me, so it takes time to adapt. Everything takes time. And I mean, then in my last year, in my senior year, the assistant dean of recruiting from Syracuse University just came, which I had organized. And when I did that, she said that, Saad, you need to come to Syracuse University. I'm like, okay, let's give it a try, because I was dreaming to go back to Dubai and then start working over there. Since I grew up, I knew more streets and more locations than I knew in Pune. So that was more of a first choice. And I came to Syracuse University, and it was a mess for me, at least right in the beginning. I come from India, where you have the Indian English. I grew up in Dubai, where you learn UK English. And now I'm into America, where there is American English. What do? The pronunciations. Because one thing I've seen in the United States is that you need to, communicate better. When I say that, it means putting forth what you think in your mind in a much better and articulate way. You need to enunciate properly. And you might be the best, but I mean, you cannot sell your berries if you don't speak out loud. That's the whole point, even though if you have the credentials or the experiences. I came here, I got into the different positions on campus just to show my worth, show my potential so that people recognize it, which is, I think, very essential. Again, it needs time management, it needs efforts. And you need to do good, you need to know what your priorities are. You need to know what needs preference first and what can come later. And people used to tell me that, Saad, usually international students don't get a job. I got my job in the second semester, 1 year before I graduated. And this was in a career fair. And I mean, Professor Lapointe knows this really well. I have an Excel spreadsheet, which has the name of my connections, which has name of their contact numbers and the positions they were in and how I initiated contacts. So when we talk about connections, it doesn't mean getting in touch and having one or two conversations. A connection means that you speak with that person and your bonding is so great that anytime you hit a roadblock, you should be able to give a call to that person. 2 days back, I got a call from CFO of Impediment. And he spoke to me, hey, Saad, how are you doing? And what's up with you? What's with the company? Did you start or not? This is the kind of connection that usually people refer to, usually what maybe Lara was referring to. This is the true meaning of connection. And that is how it helps. Just on LinkedIn, you send a request and it needs work. And people see it when you type, when you text, when you speak to people, they can feel the passion in you, the enthusiasm, your desire to do something. And that's what my mentors, my advisors told me. I think 2 weeks back, I spoke to the ex-vice president of PepsiCo. These are our alums. These are our Syracuse University and Whitman School alums. And they really help out. So the second thing that I come to after persistence and, persistence and communication that you need to have, I think what needs to be out there is for you to open up, for you to trust people, and for you to put forth that message that you have, that, okay, I need this, I need your help. And I think that helps a lot. And it needs work. You cannot get it in the first try. I've been doing this for the last 18 months. And I'm still I wouldn't consider myself in the professional world yet, even though I have experiences, but it is during my undergrad and my graduate career. But still there has to be some work more done, and it needs planning. Everything comes down to strategic planning and how you prioritize things and how you execute them. You cannot do it alone. You need help, and just think the right way. And my ultimate message to international students would be, when you come to a different country, you need to start slow, but you need to have the right people around just to ask them and get guidance from them, because trust me, there is no shortage of people who are there to help you. No shortage, absolutely. Language cannot be a barrier. Your experience cannot be a barrier. I have seen that. I've done that. And literally, I think I know around 70, 80 people who I could just give a call to in respective companies. Now, I think the results of this would be boundless. I mean, there's no scope which I can limit to because I have help and I can call anyone. So I think persistence, communication, helping, having the intention to ask for help, and then having the right people around does really work wonders. Thank you.
Thank you, Saad. Very helpful, and it's just amazing. You don't sound like a graduate student. Sounds like you have been outside school for 10 years already. But I think that is really the benefit of having such an active and really kind of purpose-driven, focused career planning. So thank you very much. All right, now let's move to our third panelist, Jenny Eng. Jenny is a good friend of Syracuse University, good friend of Whitman School. And just like the other two panelists, she has her own kind of very international global career path. But also Jenny comes with another unique aspect because in her career, she has been also helping many people pursue and develop global business careers. I'm so glad that you're here. So Jenny hails from Malaysia, and she is a huge believer of lifelong learning. We have something in common, right? In her experience, her best life lessons begin at the end of her comfort zone. She received her education from University of Nottingham in UK with a master's in management psychology. She also holds a bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in marketing from Help University in Malaysia. She is currently the Global Talent and Organizational Development Manager at VMLY&R. It's a global full-service marketing agency. And prior to joining VMLY&R, Jenny also worked in Asia for different multinational corporations. So thank you for joining us. And I'm looking forward to also hearing from your perspectives and experience.
Thank you so much, Professor Q. for the amazing introduction. Hello, everyone. As Professor Lee has introduced me, I'm Jenny Eng, and my passion is to inspire development in the employees that I work with day to day. So after hearing from Lara and Syed, I myself learned a lot from them. I'm super impressed with their experiences, and I would like to connect with them right away. So I would definitely advise you all to connect with them on LinkedIn to start building that connection. Because like what Syed mentioned, asking for help, it's really, really crucial, especially for international students when you are away from your family, your friends, people you know, environments that you are comfortable with. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is actually a sign of strength. So I really am in line with what Lara mentioned and Syed mentioned when it comes to asking for help, and also be persistent. Think about why exactly you want to work in a global company or an international office. Why is it that you want to do that? What attracts you? Because there will be times when you apply for a job and you get rejection, or when you apply for a job and you were told, sorry, sponsorship are not eligible for this role. Then you want to be reminded of the main reason, the main why you want to have a role in a global company. That will be your source of motivator. So before you even think about applying for any job, think about why you want an international setting of a job. So that's my very introduction of why. And for me, my why is that from a very young age, I know I want to have a career in the States, in United States, and have a life here in the United States. So I have been going through a lot of challenges throughout my career life. I graduated in Malaysia in psychology background, but my first job was a logistics coordinator for Mars Incorporation. So Mars is the company that gives you Skittles, M&M's, chocolate, and things like that. So for me, I know that my goal is to come to my goal is to come to the US, and that I want to work with a company that has global footprint around the world so that I can get a foot into the door, right? I applied for logistics coordinator. And even though it doesn't align with my bachelor's degree, I know there is something about each role that I can learn from. So during that role, I learned a lot about Microsoft Excel because they want to deal with logistics and shipments and tracking through Excel. So even though you did not get your perfect job, there is still something to learn about in each of those roles that you will be applying. So that's the beginning of my career. And that whenever throughout my career life, there is an opportunity to come to the US, even it means to take a step back from my career ladder or a step behind from the salary that I am meant to negotiate. So for example, if I know for my next role, this is the X amount of salary, if I'm being offered a job that is lower than my expectation, but that job is in the US, I ask myself, am I willing to make that sacrifice? So if somehow, somewhere down the road, you are in those kind of situations, always remember your why and your ultimate goal. Are you willing to take those sacrifices for the longer term of goals that you have for your career? So that's the second one. And that for me, I think the main thing that I learned throughout my various career experiences is that you need to be able to adapt to the cultural differences of the different countries that you are planning to work in. So like Syed mentioned, he was born in India. He was raised with the Indian English, and then the UK English, and then the American English. That is a challenge for myself as well. And on top of that, back home growing up, my family has been teaching us to stay humble. You know, whatever accomplishments that you achieve, whatever you've done in your life, just keep it to yourself and stay humble. You know, don't call or don't spotlight on yourself. That's what I have been taught. But when I came to the US, I've learned that I have to shout out my accomplishments because that's how the culture is here. If you don't share your expertise, if you don't share your accomplishments, people will never know what you can do for that company. So it was a very tough challenge for me to adapt. And I need to learn, okay, I know back home that culture or my family culture is that you have to stay humble. You have to keep everything to yourself. But now that I'm in this environment, for me to excel in the American culture career setting, I need to learn to be able to have the courage to say, yes, I'm the one who achieved this. Yes, I am able to do this, and make it known to your future employers or even your future managers. That's the second thing that I've learned. And the third is that will be very practical advice from a HR standpoint, because I have a role in HR, is that you need to know that when you apply for a job that requires sponsorship, you have to think about it from the employer perspective. What do I mean by that is that whenever an employer wants to sponsor a visa, it's an investment for them. So your role and your responsibility here then is that how can you then bring that value? How can you then show that value, you know, so that the employer is willing to make that sponsorship? You don't do that by saying like, hey, I'm going to apply for this full-time job right away, and then I'm going to ask for sponsorship. Some companies may do it, some companies may not. So you want to try to apply to companies that are willing to do sponsorship, and that if they don't do that for the entry-level job, I would say then get your foot into the door through internships. Go to your career fairs, apply for internships, leverage your OPTs, and apply for internships. At least through the internship period, show your employer what you can bring to the table. Show them your value. How is that you are different from all the other interns? Be proactive. Always say, hey, how can I help? What can I do? Speak to multiple different people of your colleagues during the internship. Even it means to speaking to the CEO of the company. And I know that during these internship programs for any organization, even the one that VML YNR has, we always have our CEO speak to our interns. So leverage those opportunities and send those emails to the CEO or anyone who is speaking throughout the internship program. So that's that. Another practical advice that I would like to give that I've learned that when I am an international student working in the US setting or any country at all, you need to learn what type of work visas are there for the country. You need to know more about those employment visas than the company HR. You need to know what type of visas are there. So then your research skills, I would really encourage that you start also thinking about reading a lot more about the types of employment visas. After your OPTs, what can you apply? After your student's visa, what can you apply? What type of working visas are out there? Is there the J1 visa, L1b Visa, H1b visas? What kind of options do you have for yourself? Do you need to speak to someone who have experiences to share those types of visas with you? Or you want to read more on the internet of people who have experiences around the type of visa sponsorship? So that's that. And two things I wish I have known way before, I wish I could tell Jenny, who is the 20-year-old back then, is that when you move to a different country, you also need to research a lot about the taxation system. How much tax is deducted from your salary? Because you need to know that number, and then you can then figure out what is your basic living income that will sustain your life in the foreign country. When you are in a foreign country, you have to take care of yourself. You need to know and estimate that. Now it comes to budget planning, right? Finance planning. If you want to stay in a country that is foreign, yes, you can have your family to help out, right? But of course, when you are independent, you want to rely on yourself first. If it's during emergency, you have something that you can take care of yourself first. So learning about the taxation system, you would know how much is deducted from your salary. Then you would know how much you need to budget into your apartments, your living, your expenses, and things like that. I wish I know of the American taxation system, which is a very complicated one, way before I even accepted a job here or even applied for a job in the US. Learn a lot about the taxation system. Another one that you need to learn is also the health insurance, how much is deducted from your salary and things like that. Speak to people who have experiences on that, who have come from that background, so that they can give you a rough idea of how much do you need to sustain a life or the expenses you need in a foreign country. I'm speaking it from a United States standpoint, but if you do plan to live in, I don't know, Dubai or Switzerland or Singapore, find out those countries' taxation system, health insurance, living expenses, things like that. And the final thing that I would like to tell my younger self is that always negotiate your first salary with that company. Don't simply accept any salary just because you want that job. Because if you don't negotiate your salary, you are not negotiating or respecting the value that you're bringing to the table. And that your first salary, if you decide to stay in a company for a longer period of time, will be your base salary moving forward. So always negotiate your value, what you can bring to the table. I understand that when we are at the position that we need the sponsorship from our employer, you may need to make a certain sacrifice in terms of the salary, knowing that it was an investment from the employer side of things when they invest in you for sponsorship. So there are a lot of things to think about, right? Are you willing to make sacrifices on this area of your life to fulfill a longer term career goal? All these things you need to think about right now, when I would say you have the opportunity right now when you don't have commitments, when you're young, things like that. Go experience. If this company doesn't give you the sponsorship, sure, find other companies in different countries that will provide you that global experience that you want. And always remember, back why you want to work in a global company. Why do you want that global experience? Why is it so important you need that? That would then help determine your next steps, and also help, I would say, motivate you and be resilient to stay in this game, to survive or have a life in whichever global foreign country that you want to build your life in. I believe that's basically what I have. And thank you so much. And I look forward to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Fascinating and a very unique point of view. But interesting, I think all three panelists has some unique kind of experiences and unique points of view. But at the same time, I hear some common themes kind of repeated by all three of them, although they did not pre-rehearse this together. You know, something like persistence, patience, consistency. I think that is one of the common themes. Another common theme is the importance of connections, not simply having, you know, so many Facebook friends or linkages, but really the depth and kind of deeper engagement with other people, communication, the importance of asking for help. So those are some of the common themes that I have gotten from this panelist. I'm pretty sure that the audience learned a lot more beyond that. Anyway, these three panelists represent the people who successfully developed themselves as global professionals. Whether you're talking about coming from Jordan or India or Malaysia, moving to the United Arab Emirates or US, Switzerland, they have their unique background and heritage, but at the same time, they successfully developed themselves to become global professionals. And that's what Whitman School is all about. There are many people who can help the students to develop their capabilities as the future global professionals. And today we have two particularly helpful people inside the school. The first person that I'd like to reintroduce is Christine Waby. She represents the Whitman Career Center, which is a very important place that you want to ask for help many times. And Kristen has been a great resource to many of our international students. I think she has some valuable information and advice to share with you. So Kristen, would you like to go for it?
Thank you, Professor Lee. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you to Lara, Saad, and Jenny. Wow, the advice that you shared was just incredible. And it is so valuable from a firsthand perspective. And I learned so much from a career services professional standpoint, and I'm certain that our students did the same. So thank you so much for the depth that you provided and the time that you took to prepare, you know, your thoughts, and great value learned. It'll be tough to follow those three, but I certainly want to go ahead and share some insight from my perspective of being a career services professional. And I know we may have had a couple of new students hop on the call since my introduction at the beginning of the conversation. So I'll just go ahead and briefly reintroduce myself. So my name is Christine Waby, and I work in the Whitman Career Center. And I currently work with our undergraduate students in finance and real estate, as well as undeclared students in Adams House. But then I also work with our MBA students. And before my current role, I worked very closely with our MBA students and our MS students in our on-campus programs across all of the different programs that we have. And in that role, I worked very closely with a large number of international students. So I do have some great experience working with international students from a professional development and career services perspective. I too am an SU alumna, and I graduated with a hospitality management degree. So great to be able to, you know, give this perspective to you all today. So I wanted to share some tips for success in professional development and internship and career search. But first of all, just wanted to provide some perspective for those on the call. I know we have some Whitman students in our online programs, and then a couple of students in other colleges on this call as well. But the Career Center has so much to offer. So I may be a little biased working in the Career Center myself, but we really do have so much to offer to students and our international students specifically. So I strongly encourage that you engage with the Career Center often, and that you engage with the Career Center as soon as possible. So if you've already begun those conversations, great. If you haven't yet, following this call today, go ahead and schedule an appointment in Handshake. We would love to connect with you and get started right away. But we do so much more than a resume and cover letter review and development. So the Career Center really is your partner in developing your internship or job search strategy, learning about the importance of networking in your career or internship search, and also developing interview skills, right? So preparing for interviews and preparing for the job and internship search, and learning about how to make meaningful connections throughout your time at Whitman and how important that is. We have contacts that we can share with you. We host a multitude of different professional development events. So we talked a little bit through our panelists about negotiating salary. So we have an upcoming workshop on that next week. So take a look into Handshake, and we have that resource available to you. But go ahead and connect with us. We're happy to help. We're here to help. So now I want to go ahead and share some tips for success. So for international students, I can't stress enough the importance of a parallel search plan. So I'll break that down a little bit further. So say your goal is to find a job or internship in the US, and we want you to concentrate on that goal as your priority. But at the same time, be working on your backup plan or your plan B, and do that simultaneously, right? So say your backup plan is searching for a job or internship in your home country. Then if your priority is a job or internship in the US, focus 60 or 70% on that goal and spend the other 30% or so of time dedicated to your search in your home country. And that way you can have the best chance for success, which is ultimately to land that internship or job, right? And I can't stress enough the importance of that and how effective that's been for students in the past. And ultimately, we're going to work with you for that top goal, but also want to make sure that you're leveraging all of the resources and opportunities that you have available to you. And then I know we've heard this a lot today, but make as many connections as you can throughout your program. So I call this the power of networking. About 70% of individuals in the US find a job or internship through some means of networking. And that's just an incredible number, right? So it shows that it works, right? And how can you make these connections? So you can make connections through your classes with your peers, make connections with your professors, right? Make connections with professionals working at Whitman. So your career advisor or other resources that you have through clubs and organizations that you get involved with on campus. And then of course, with alumni, with recruiters and with employers, which tends to be the most powerful means of making connections that lead to these referrals to internship and job opportunities. And I know that can be difficult, right? It may be something that's new to you, from the culture that you're most accustomed to. And that is one thing that Whitman and our Career Center can help you to do, help you to get outside of that comfort zone. We have tools, we have ways that we can practice. We can do mock conversations. We have Whitman Connect, which is our platform for alumni mentorship that we can talk to you about so that you can leverage and use that as well. So many great resources. So make as many connections as you can. I know Saad mentioned, having upwards of 70 connections in different companies. So build that portfolio, if you will, of contacts and keep building it, right, throughout your time at Whitman and at Syracuse University. And then get involved on campus. So I think this is really an important one, right? There's over 300 extracurricular clubs at Syracuse University. And this was something that was just so intriguing to me during my time as a student. So if you go to Syracuse's website and you just type in clubs and organizations, you can filter through the various types of clubs, cultural organizations, special interests, things like that. Not only will you make connections through those clubs, but you will also build your resume and position your resume into that well-rounded experience that employers are looking for. And you never know who you'll meet through those professional clubs, right? A lot of those clubs have professional speakers, and they have employers and companies coming in to talk to you about recruitment or about different career tracks. Just a really great way to open so many different doors and get involved with more than one club. So maybe you're, your first year you're in a club, your next year you add on another club, pick up a leadership position in that club that's really going to enhance your resume and your professional development. So we have dozens of clubs just at Whitman itself. Go to our website, take a look, get involved. Great way to meet people, build your resume, and make meaningful, powerful connections. And attend professional development events, employer and recruitment events, and alumni events for undergraduate and master students that are in our on-campus programs. You can find all of those through the Handshake platform. If you're not familiar with Handshake or you haven't been using it, connect with your career center, connect with your career advisor. We'll get you set up and we'll show you how to take advantage of using it. There are great conversations with companies on recruitment, what they're looking for in candidates, particular career tracks, and simply just networking and building a relationship, right? So some casual conversations. So for instance, the Big Four, they like to do virtual yoga sessions. A really great way to have fun, make connections, build relationships. A lot of the large companies, that is what they're looking for. So not only the technical skills and the building of the resume relevant to the job, but someone that can communicate, build relationships, really show interest and engage. That personality and cultural match to the organization is so important as well. And then we have alumni panels, we have coffee chats. There's so much to get involved with, not only through Whitman, through the university in itself. Get involved, do it regularly, and build those relationships. Of course, attend the career fairs. So at Whitman, we have a career fair every fall and every spring. This past year, they've both been virtual. In the fall of 2021, the career fair will be virtual as well. That is a great way to have one-on-one conversations with employers and recruiters, and then to attend group conversations where you can learn about a company and then do individual follow-up after that group conversation to really show interest. It's a great way to stand out. It's a great way to to see what that company is looking for. Can't stress enough the importance. And so many students have obtained jobs through attending these career fairs. And not only do we have the two at Whitman, there are career fairs for all of the schools and colleges across campus, and there's a central career fair for the university as well that are open to all students. And I will keep my next comments brief because I want to make sure we have time to answer all of your wonderful questions, but connect with the Center for International Services regularly. They are another great resource for you. They hold seminars for CPT and OPT regularly. They're being held virtually right now. It is important to understand the process, especially when it comes to OPT, because there's an application process, there's timelines. You want to get ahead with applying so that way when you have a job offer in hand, you're not waiting for your OPT and your EAD, and you can officially know that you can start when that employer is looking for you to start post-graduation. So learn about that process. Things change, right? Laws and regulations regarding immigration change regularly. And it's important to stay connected with them as a great resource. They really are experts in that area. And if you're not already registered for their listserv, make sure you go ahead and do that. I'm registered. They just sent an email this afternoon while we're on this call. There's helpful information. They do mixers with international students. You can meet other students in different schools and colleges, and at Whitman, really build your network, make those connections. So important. And then last but not least, connect with your career center and your career advisor regularly and set up a game plan, right? And be proactive with doing it. Hold yourself accountable. We are here to meet with you as often as you would like. I have students that meet with me weekly. That is perfectly fine. I am happy to meet with students weekly. It helps to build a relationship so that we can learn what you're interested in. We can help you identify what you're interested in. If you're early on, maybe you're a freshman and you're not quite sure what you want to do yet. And we can get to understand when we come across opportunities that might be fitting for you, we can have more in-depth conversations and perhaps refer you to those companies and those organizations and help you to open up doors in that way. And it really helps to keep you on track throughout your time at Whitman and to really stay engaged with the amount of different events and resources that we have, so we can go over them in detail. Like we have a platform called Big Interview where you can practice interviewing virtually, and we can work with you to develop and polish your interview skills. We have another platform called VMock where you can upload your resume and get some additional insight from a programmatic standpoint on your resume. And it's great to have different perspectives and feedbacks, leverage connecting with the alumni and asking them for feedback on your resume. How do you feel this positions well to the industry? Get those unique perspectives. And we are here, we're happy to help for our MS students at Whitman that are in our traditional on-campus programs, even if you're virtual currently. Linda McHugh is your direct contact and career advisor. I know she's on this call today. So Linda, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions specifically, or you're not quite sure who your career center advisor is, please reach out to me directly. Our online students have dedicated career advisors as well. Happy to help and guide you in the right direction. So thank you so much for inviting me to participate, Diane and Professor Lee. It is a pleasure.
Thank you, Christine. That was very helpful, and definitely, we heard a lot about connections today. And Whitman Career Center is one place that you definitely want to have a very strong connection with. Now, another part of Whitman that you can develop very helpful connections while you're studying at Syracuse University and Whitman is the faculty. Many Whitman professors come with international backgrounds. Even more of them have significant international experiences and connections. They offer great support and opportunities for global business learning and career development. And one of the best examples among those of faculty members is Professor Gary LaPointe in supply chain management. So let's spend a few minutes also to hear from Professor LaPointe regarding some of the opportunities, information, and his perspectives.
Thank you very much, Professor. I appreciate it. And thank you all for inviting me to this. And what wonderful advice we've all been hearing from our graduates and our students. This is actually wonderful. I wish I had had some of that advice as well when I was going to college. But you heard Christine talk about your different plans, your plan A and your plan B. And I'm here to give maybe a little bit of insight to the plan B side of it. So I certainly don't have to tell any international student how difficult it is to find a full-time position here in the US. And part of what I do, in addition to being faculty, is I've been running our Singapore summer internship program for since 2006. So I've spent a considerable amount of time in Southeast Asia and especially in Singapore. And what I'd like people to consider, international students to consider, is the option of working outside of the US after you graduate. And there's some very fine companies, and in Singapore in particular. So here's kind of maybe the bit of the reality of the situation too. So at any given point in time, there's about 800 to 900,000 international students studying in the US in any given year. And unfortunately, the government only issues about 90,000 visas every year. So this is about 10%. So you can see the difficulties that there are in getting full-time placement with a visa. And so an alternate that is to explore opportunities outside the US in countries such as Singapore. To give you a little bit of perspective and why I like Singapore, why I kind of promote Singapore. Singapore is a country, it's only about half the size of Onondaga County. In other words, it's only about 12 miles wide and 22 miles long. But in that small little space, Singapore has over 6,000 companies in that space, and over half of those are US-based companies, multinationals that are operating there. And what we're trying to do here at the Whitman School is to develop some collaborations with some of these Singapore companies. In fact, we had our first meeting today about our first potential collaboration, to develop this pipeline of potential internships and then full-time jobs right from Singapore, or excuse me, right from Whitman right into Singapore. Now, here's kind of the deal. The company wants people to work in Singapore when they graduated or when they go through the internship program and come back. And they also have companies, divisions in Shanghai, Beijing, Taiwan, South Korea. And so they're looking for students to come back and to work into those areas. And this is kind of like what I'm trying to put in the back of your minds and as your plan B, perhaps, is to give us some consideration that your dream may be to stay in the US, and that's great. It's not impossible to do. It's difficult, but certainly not impossible. But the other side is there's really great opportunities outside of the US. And Singapore, it's a very westernized kind of a work environment. And if you go to the office, it is very different from other parts of Asia and Southeast Asia in terms of equality and diversity. And they highly respect that in Singapore. The country is a very safe country, it's a very clean country, very organized country, and the salaries are comparable to what you'd find in the West. So I just want to throw that out as something to keep in mind. And as we develop these collaborations, we're certainly going to make them available and promote those to any of our students, actually. So I don't want to take a lot of time. We've heard a lot of great information from everyone else, and I just wanted to throw out this last bit of perspective on that. That's something that we're working on, and all for the benefit of trying to help our international students find some good placement for internships and for full-time placement. So with that, I want to thank you for that few moments. I'm happy to answer any questions as well when we get into the question and answer session.
Thank you, Professor Lapointe. So I think it's time for me to now give the mic to Xinyu and Ray so that we can address some of the questions from the students.
Thank you, Professor Lee. It's time to move to our Q&A part. And before that, I think we are going to have a poll question to ask all of the students about super quick questions. So if you have time, please fill that poll questions and leave your questions under the Q&A part, and we will include all of the questions. We probably not have enough time to answer all of questions, but we will make sure after the session, we will email you to answer some questions we cannot answer you in time. Okay, so I saw the poll now. I will leave some time for our students to finish their poll. And before that, I just want to say my thanks to all of the panelists and Professor Lee, Christy, and Diane, and all of the people who are working on this. I'm also an international student. Personally, I learned a lot from this session, and one of my class and friends, she also mentioned the Singapore program before. She said it was very helpful experience for her because she applied that because of the pandemic. It could not happen last year, but it is really very helpful program for all of the international students. So for now, I have seen the results. It's interesting. So our first question is, how open are you to exploring international career opportunities? And 50% of students, they are saying most definitely. So I am pretty sure you are going to have tons of questions you are going to ask our panelists, because personally I learned a lot and I already have tons of questions I'm going to ask them. So if you are definitely looking for job opportunities in States. So please let me know your concerns and your questions. And it looks like, okay, I will go through the first two questions I have received in the Q&A box. The first question is okay. So probably the students are looking at the second poll question. I'm waiting for their response now, but I will go through our first two questions first. So the first question is kind of general question. The student is asking what kind of employment visa in US. I am pretty sure our International Student Center can help with that. I think it is referring to what Jenny mentioned before, like how important for international students to gain as much as resources or to gain this kind of information from internet when you are looking for a job in States. So I'm just going to quickly ask Jenny if you have some comments on this question. And I am pretty sure, Kylie, you probably can ask for help either from our Career Center or International Student Center.
Sure. I can quickly tell you how many there are based on my memory. There is the L1 Visa, which is the extraordinary achievement and ability in business. That's quite difficult to apply. For example, if you are like a creative director who won a lot of awards and you have like PhD research and you win something that help humanity and things like that, that's something that your employer would apply for you. Then you have your J1 visa, which is the exchange visitor visa. That's a very temporary one, 6 months in duration, and then you have to leave. You have your H1b visa for skilled workers. That visa, it's capped in terms of the number of visas per year. And it's a very unique visa where your employers can only apply once a year, and you can only start your job on October. The application date is in April, but you can only start your job in October. Think about it from an employer standpoint. If an employer wants to fill up that role right away, if you ask for a H1B visa application, it's a little bit challenging. So that's one. And then the last one that I can think of is the one that I have right now. It's the L1b Visa. It's called the Inter-Transfer Company Visa. So this is interesting because I work in our Singapore office too. So I would definitely encourage you to take up Professor Lapointe's suggestion to work in those Singapore office, because in the Singapore office, a lot of them are the Asia HQ, Asia headquarter of the companies. Get your foot in the door, work there, gain experiences. And your unique selling point with that experience is that if you do have the opportunity to transfer back into the US, you have the Asia perspective of how the company works in Asia when you come back to the global HQ. So that's my response to that question.
No, excellent. I agree 100% with that. You can't get into a US company in the US, get into a US company in Asia, and then transfer back. And we have students that have done exactly that through the Singapore program.
Perfect. And there's a visa for that. So during your time, show your value, ask in the Asia HQ, hey, I really want to consider for this global position. How can I go about it? Is there anything I can do from my end? And is there any way for you to support this process? If you do your work and show up as a great employee and you are showing your contribution, you're showing your value, I don't see why an employer would not consider at all.
Thank you. Thank you both for answering this question. Next, I will quickly go through the next question. So it is a specific question for Jenny. So Laurie is asking, can you share some common characteristics that successful international candidates have from HR perspective? And yeah, she's saying thank you to all of the panelists.
For me, I have seen that you need to be open to the experiences and open to the different cultural differences in your own culture and also the culture of the company. Do you know what the company is that you are applying for? And that for candidates, we want to see that you're passionate about your role, passionate about your career, and as well as where do you see your career going? From an employer's perspective, of course, we want you to stay with us as long as possible, right? So then how do you see yourself in our company throughout your career journey? And that I would recommend you reading a book like this that I really liked, Culture Map. I would type down, it basically teaches you the cultural differences of different countries so that when you work in different global companies, you are aware of the cultural differences and that you are able to adapt well as well.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jenny. I think your answer must answer the question Laurie has. I'm just going to quickly share our result for our second question in the poll. So it looks like most of international students, they are looking for help from personal contacts, Korean, fears, LinkedIn, and Indeed. So Korean Center has not received too many votes here, but I am pretty sure it will get many votes later on because Christine has introduced to us like how important the Korean Center is. So I'm strongly encouraging all of our international students ask for help from Korean Center. Let me check our Q&A box. I have actually received a question from one of my international students, and I think it is super important question. So he is asking, should international students only apply for job opportunities that offer sponsorship or apply for all potential jobs? I think some of our panelists mentioned that about how to filter your career opportunities and how to focus on one direction. But I think at this time, and we are kind of struggling for that because sometimes opportunities come, but the opportunities are not the perfect. So I want to open this to all of our panelists to say if any one of you would like to give us some suggestions.
I would like to go on with this one because personally I've been in that position, whether to go on for those companies or not. But there is no blueprint for for making a decision. It always depends on how much risks are you willing to take and the rewards that come with it. I would tell you that for sure. But the thing is, it depends whether you're an experienced professional or you're just right out of college. Because for me, I'm just right out of college. I did my bachelor's and I then directly came for a master's. So for me, what is important is more experience in the professional world that people would value. And if that makes sense, you need to focus more on the turf that you're in, the arena that you can play around with. For me, as a master's in science, I have 3 years of OPT. So I have some scope to play around with this. Okay, let's say that I work for a company for 1 year and they do not sponsor me. I would get 1 year of United States experience or American experience that a different company would value, and they would sponsor me in the second year because I have 2 more years left. That is the kind of game I would play. However, when a company says that we are not sponsoring at this point of time, but we're just getting an internship, that doesn't really mean that they're not going to ever. It's nothing in hard writing. I've seen people who say that, okay, just give me an internship, even though you do not want to sponsor me. And when they get their foot in the door, like Jenny said, just get a foot in the door, they are impressed by the candidate and they feel like he's an asset to the company. We cannot just let him go. They change the mind. So right before the interview, they were saying that you're not going to sponsor, but now they are. So basically you need to, there is a trade-off. You need to see how much risks are you willing to take. I mean, and you cannot take those decisions by yourself. I again come to the point. You need advisors, you need mentors, because they know they can think forward to or help you think forward to what this might end up to. They would tell you, okay, this company, it's not worth doing an internship. You try for a better company because there is these statistics that go on for this company that they hire you. So it all depends on, like for MBA students, you just got 1 year of OPT. So it might be a really difficult choice for you. you need to go head on for full-time opportunities because you might have just 1 year to plan for H1b because that's most international students do. But in the other case, you have a little more time. So play around and one thing I would say just before this, when we're talking about the career services, they are the first line of action. I mean, if you do not go to the career fairs on your campus, I myself would feel that it's foolish to do that. You have something right in your reach and you're leaving that out. And for me, the first people that I went to was the career services. So I just want to put that out too.
Thank you. Thank you. It's super helpful. Like for me, when I first say I attend the occasion, I just go for the Korean Center. So I knew Kristen in my first semester. It's super helpful and they provide much of information. And I think we only have time to answer the last. Oh, okay, so we have 2 questions, but I think we only have time for 1 question. I will go for this at first. So Therese, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please let me know. I don't want to do this. So she has a question and she's saying, I'm doing a PhD in HDFS and any specific advice for person in psychology and other developmental or social science and what kind of suggestions specifically for them. So I will also open this question to all of our panelists. Feel free to unmute and give your professional advice.
Well, I don't have any, I'm not in that area at all, but I'll give you like my 2 cents on that is one of the things, if you're a PhD student, you kind of really just set yourself apart from the general population. So that's one of the key questions on all these applications is what does this applicant have that's different that we can't find in the general population? And a PhD is something that certainly sets yourself apart from the general population. So your chances are much, much better at finding something than say just an undergrad. But to build on this real quick, I know time's running out, what both Jenny and others have said, the importance of an internship, because every company is capable of sponsoring. And if you get in there and get an internship going, and that kind of sets you apart because now you've got experience with that company and they don't have to go out and look in the general population for somebody, they've got you. And so I think another reason why internships are so valuable.
Thank you, Professor. I will go for the last question. I think it is also a very important question. So Kelly is asking, as a student who hopes to seek opportunities abroad, would a resume or say a CV written in the region's language be helpful? And are there any resources in Syracuse where we could seek help in composing resumes in language other than English?
I can start this one, and I think Professor Lapointe, I think you were unmuting yourself as well, and certainly feel free to jump in and add. So from our Career Center's perspective at Whitman, we unfortunately would not be a direct resource for composing resumes in a language outside of English. However, I encourage you to connect with us because we can share some helpful resources or alumni that you can engage with for some direct assistance there. And for the Singapore program that Professor Lapointe was referring to, the language of business there is English. So a resume in English for that program would certainly suffice and be appropriate. And for those individuals applying to internships or jobs in your home country specifically, like I said, engage with us and we will share some resources as far as alumni that are working in some companies that can provide firsthand insight into what they might be looking for in their particular organization.
And just to add on to that too, the university has the English Language Institute. And so there's people who speak a lot of different languages over there that can help you. And it's also important because resumes are different in different parts of the world. Some countries, they want to see your picture on your resume. Some countries don't want to see it. So you need to kind of get that cultural perspective from what country you want to apply to. And as Christine said, in Singapore, and actually in a lot of businesses, English is the language of business. Even though you might be in a foreign country, they'll speak English at work. And then as soon as they leave work, they're speaking their native language. So good English skills is just really a good must, I think. But I would check out the English Language Institute. I think they are in University College, are they not? Does anyone know?
That is correct, Gary. And also Whitman itself has diverse international alumni group and also faculty members with expertise and connections in different parts of the world.
Thank you, all of us. I just have one quick question. I think it is also the question for Christine and Kai Lu. He or she's asking where to find the career advisor for students online. So you can give a quick answer for her, that would be super helpful.
So I will actually follow up with Kailu directly via email and there's an email address that you would reach out to, and I'll follow up after this call.
Okay, thank you. So we're kind of run out of time. In the end, I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists, Professor and Christine, all of the people who are here today. And I also want to say thank you to all of the students, international students who join us. We also list some upcoming events which are super helpful for our international students. So feel free to check it out if you have time. And we have putting all of the link and information in the chat box. So hope all of you enjoy our meeting today, our session today, and have a great Friday. Thank you, all of you.